there's no question about the most important area I've researched. It's the nature of reality, and it's the nature of the self, the I. You imagine playing a game when you don't know what the rules are. You don't know the nature of the game. You don't know how it's played. You don't know anything about the game. And yet those that are seeking to manipulate you know all about the game. They know the rules, they know how reality works. They just don't want you to know. So we have two worlds in one world. We have the world of this global cult, this global network of secret societies, and advanced knowledge about, not least, the nature of reality is passed on through the levels of the global cult, and really the real knowledge, the inner circle, not Bill and Joe down the lodge. And the same cult that passes on this advanced knowledge of reality and so much more through initiations, etc., that same cult has created the means of communication to the general public. It created the education system. Look at the Rockefellers in America, for a start, J.D. Rockefeller. It owns the global media. It's moved in massively on much of the alternative media, actually, especially since COVID. And so you've got this cult, it's passing on advanced information within its closed area of initiations, and it's created the sources of information that the target population get. So what it does is, while it's passing over advanced information here, it's programming the target population with a very squeezed sense of the possible. And if you can squeeze someone's sense of the possible, you've basically got them. Because when people like me come along and saying they're doing this and this is how they're doing it, then people with that squeezed sense of the possible say, that's not possible, that's ridiculous, that is. You're mad, mate. And so you've got advanced information passed on here, information passed on here only enough so that they can serve this, not so that they suss what this is and what it's doing. And so what I've been doing now coming into my 36th year is, among everything else, researching the nature of reality itself, the nature of the I. And you realize that we are living a phantom self, a phantom version of who we are. You know, you ask people who they are, and they'll give you their name, they'll give you maybe their job, their place of birth or location. They'll give you all these labels of what? A human. And yet human is merely a ridiculously brief experience within this, what is actually just a tiny band of frequency we call the human world. What we are is consciousness. In the end, formless consciousness, a state of awareness. Who are we? What's the ultimate I? A state of being aware. The question is, how aware? Infinitely aware? Or Bill down the call center aware, who never thinks beyond the program? They're both states of awareness, but they are vastly, vastly different. Now, this cult wants the population there, with a squeezed sense of the possible. And that's why it controls the sources of information. In fact, we are not human in the sense of the ultimate I. Human is merely an experience that consciousness is briefly having. But if you can, and they have, convince people that what they are briefly experiencing is actually who they are, you got them. So they want you to believe that we're just a cosmic accident that lives a few years and then ceases to exist, or, just as good to them, that we are subordinate to some judgmental God who is furious if we don't do what he says, and gives us one life that lasts a few seconds or 100 years, on which we are then judged for eternity. Either way, we're down here, subordinate to what's up there, symbolically. And so, appreciating, researching that, to appreciate that this is a simulation, very much akin to the Matrix in the Matrix movies. It's a fake reality. And we are supposed to believe this fake reality is real. It's like putting a headset on in a virtual reality game and believing it's real. Now, that's what people do. You go on the internet and see some of these compilations of people with headsets on. They're in a room, normal. They put a headset on. Suddenly, they're screaming, they're jumping around, they're falling over. Why? Because their sense of reality has been taken over by the game. I've just described the human plight. Our sense of reality has been taken over by this simulated reality we think is real when it's not. And so what that does, and I'll go into this more in other videos, is you start to realize that this global cult is not in and of itself, it's serving its own master. And that master exists in another dimension of reality, very close to this one, but outside of the realm of the senses to see and be aware of. And so human control is not coming from the cult, it's coming through the cult. Where it's coming from is another dimension of reality. But you squeeze the sense of the possible of your target population, and they'll laugh in the face of those that say, this reality, this world, this control is not what it seems. It's very different in the way it plays out and from where it comes than people, even those aware of some conspiracy, even greater, far greater than what they perceive. And as long as we are in the game and of the game, as long as we don't understand the game and the nature of how it works, then you can be aware of the political manipulation and the financial manipulation and still basically be in a prison cell that's slightly bigger than those that don't believe in anything, but it's still a prison cell. And it's time to break out by realizing the true nature of the I, which is consciousness, awareness, a state of being aware. These are just vehicles to experience this band of frequency. Because if I tried to interact with this reality, with my consciousness, well, I couldn't directly, because my consciousness is of a completely different frequency to this reality we call the material world, which is very different to what it seems to be, beyond belief different. But by taking on an external shell, which is operating in the same frequency band as that I want to interact with, then I can interact with it. I can pick up a cup, pick up a glass, drive a car. But that's not the true I. That's the vehicle for the true I. The true I is simply a state of being aware. Question is, how aware? And here we reach the very foundation of the global conspiracy of human control to contract the awareness and perceptions of the target population to the point where they are not aware, that even they're being controlled in many examples, but certainly unaware of how it all works. If you want to read more and watch more of my content, then go to the description under the video where you can buy my books. The latest one is The Roadmap, where you can get tickets for public events, and how you can subscribe to a fantastic video channel called Iconic, iconic.com.